September 18th, 2011. On that morning, Netflix sent an email to millions of subscribers. It announced a new company called Qwikster.
Netflix says it was just too quick with its plan for Qwikster. Less than a month after the company said it would rebrand its DVD by mail service as Qwikster and keep its streaming service on a separate site.
On October 10th, 2011, 23 days later, Qwikster was gone. It had never processed a single order. It had never had a working website. It had existed only as a name in an email and a Twitter account that belonged to someone else. But there was something else happening in those months. Something Netflix never told its customers. A war over content that would define its entire future. And a financial decision that made perfect sense inside the company and destroyed the brand outside it. One company, one email, 23 days. This is the story of how Netflix killed Qwikster and why it was created in the first place. The red envelope was not glamorous, but in 1998 it changed something. No late fees, no trips to the store, a DVD in your mailbox, watched at your pace, returned when you were ready. For millions of Americans, that red envelope became a ritual, and rituals repeated enough times become loyalty. The same red envelope, the same mailbox, the same Tuesday evening routine. 13 years of that, and the brand stopped being a service. It became a part of the week. By 2010, Blockbuster had filed for bankruptcy. Netflix had not just beaten its competition, it had made the competition irrelevant. When Netflix added streaming in 2007, it did not abandon the DVD customer. It kept everything under one roof, one account, one login, one monthly bill. DVDs and streaming lived together, and customers never had to think about the plumbing. By 2011, Americans were spending more time on Netflix than on most cable channels. Not because they had to, because they chose to, every single night. That was the brand Netflix had built, not a technology platform, a habit people trusted. That summer, Netflix decided to break the habit in half. In 2007, when Netflix entered streaming, content owners did not take it seriously. They licensed their libraries cheaply. The cable network Starz had signed a deal in 2008, giving Netflix access to thousands of movies and TV shows for $30 million a year. By 2011, everything had changed. Netflix had grown into a direct threat to the studios, the cable channels, and the pay TV model. Starz did not renew. It walked away from a deal that was now worth 10 times what it had originally signed. $300 million, because it no longer wanted Netflix to have its content at any price. And Starz was not alone. One analyst projected that Netflix's streaming content costs would rise from $180 million in 2010 to nearly $2 billion in 2012. At the same moment, the companies now competing for that content had resources Netflix could not match. Amazon had $6.4 billion in cash. Apple had $76 billion. Google had $39 billion. Netflix had a fraction of that. The content war was real, and Netflix was fighting it with a fraction of the firepower. Reed Hastings needed money, and he needed it quickly. The DVD business was profitable. Streaming was not. The idea was simple, on paper. Separate the DVD business. Let its profits fund the content war. And eventually sell or spin off Qwikster independently, raising capital that Netflix alone could not. That is what Qwikster actually was. Not a customer experience redesign. A financial instrument built for a war Netflix never told its customers it was fighting. In July 2011, Netflix changed its pricing. Before the change, customers could get DVDs and streaming together for around $10 a month. After the change, each service cost $8 separately. Combined, the bill was now $16, a 60% increase. No warning, no explanation of why. Netflix's announcement post received over 82,000 comments. Most of them were not congratulations. Netflix had built its identity on being the customer's ally, against late fees, against inconvenience, against the old way of doing things. A silent 60% price hike felt like the moment that Ally changed sides. That was problem 1. Problem 2 arrived 2 months later, and it had a name. On September 18, 2011, Reed Hastings sent a personal email to every Netflix subscriber. It opened with an apology for how the price change had been communicated. Then came the announcement: the DVD business would become a separate company. New name, new website, new account, separate billing. Its name was Qwikster. Netflix would keep streaming. Qwikster would handle DVDs. 2 logins, 2 credit card charges, 2 customer service lines, 2 separate histories, 2 separate recommendation engines. A relationship built over years, split at the account level and handed back to the customer to reassemble. On Qwikster, you would start from zero. The announcement named Andy Rendich as the new CEO of Qwikster. Rendich had led Netflix's DVD operations for 4 years. What the announcement did not mention, at the time it was sent, Qwikster had no marketing plan, no PR strategy, and no confirmed communications team. A company announced to 23 million subscribers had no plan for how to talk to them. The name itself told its own story.
But that's not all. We knew you loved Netflix because it was an easy-to-use website for all your movie needs. To make it better, we split it into 2 separate, slightly more confusing sites. Netflix for streaming video, and Qwikster, which will handle DVD rentals.
Did we spell Qwikster in a normal way? No, we didn't.
No.
Qwik, annoying but easier.
Right. Yeah, and by the way, we know it's off-putting to see the CEO of a powerful company rocking a goatee and teal shirt, but trust us, we know what we're doing.
Qwikster, spelled with a Q, sounded like a startup named in an afternoon. Next to the clean, confident simplicity of Netflix, it looked temporary. It looked like something built to be sold off. Because that, it turned out, was closer to the truth than anyone admitted publicly. Customers did not see 2 focused businesses. They saw one trusted brand cutting itself apart and handing them the pieces to manage. The reaction came within hours. Within the same news cycle, journalists found something Netflix had apparently not checked. The Twitter handle at Qwikster was already taken. It belonged to a man named Jason Castillo. His profile photo was Elmo smoking marijuana. His recent tweets were about weed and Mario Kart. Netflix had announced a major new brand to 23 million subscribers without securing the social media handle. That single detail became the image of the entire disaster. Not because it was the most costly mistake, it was not, but because it was the most visible proof of something customers already suspected. Nobody had thought this through. Netflix stock fell more than 70% from its peak over the following months. 800,000 subscribers cancelled in a single quarter. The brand that had spent 13 years making customers feel understood had spent 1 email making them feel like an afterthought. Every week, brand Misfire breaks down exactly why strong brands fail, and what everyone else can learn from it. If you do not want to miss the next one, subscribe and hit the bell. It takes 2 seconds. On October 10th, 2011, 23 days after the announcement, Netflix confirmed that Qwikster was cancelled. The DVD business would stay inside Netflix. The name Qwikster would never appear on a product. Reed Hastings had now sent 2 public apologies in less than 60 days.
A big apology from Netflix. The company faced a customer backlash since it jacked up prices and separated its DVD and streaming services this summer. So now, in a letter posted last night on the Netflix site, CEO Reed Hastings said, quote, "I messed up. I owe everyone an explanation." He said in addition to Netflix, he'll create a new company called Qwikster, which will be the same website and DVD service that the company began with. He also promised no more price changes.
The first for the price hike, the second for the solution to the price hike. Each apology confirmed what the previous one had tried to deny.
We're making this video today to apologize in person, or at least on camera, for something that we did recently.
The company had lost the thread of what its customers actually needed. Qwikster had survived 23 days. It had never processed a single order. It had never had a working website. It had existed only as a name in an email and a Twitter account that belonged to someone else. And yet it had cost Netflix more than any product launch in its history. Because the damage was not operational. It was the gap between what Netflix believed about its customers and what its customers actually believed about Netflix. Netflix believed its customers were loyal to the service. Its customers believed they were loyal to the feeling. The moment that feeling broke, the service became optional. That gap, once visible, is very hard to close. The obvious lesson is, do not split a brand customers love into 2 brands they have to manage. But the real lesson sits underneath that one. Reed Hastings was not careless. He was fighting a war that his customers knew nothing about. Content costs were rising 11-fold. Studios were refusing to renew. Amazon and Apple had more cash than Netflix had revenue. The split made sense as a financial decision. What it failed to account for was that the customer had never been told about the war. They had not been told that the price hike was the cost of competing with companies 20 times richer. They had not been told that stars had walked away. They had not been told that the DVD profits were needed to buy streaming content their rivals were about to price out of reach. 3 things that would have changed everything. None of them communicated. All they had was a 60% price increase, and then an email telling them things were getting more complicated. When you raise the price and reduce the experience without explaining why, customers do not think there must be a good reason. They think they no longer care about us. Reed Hastings sent that email without a single word of explanation about what he was actually fighting. If you had been a Netflix subscriber in 2011 and someone had shown you those numbers, would you have accepted the price hike? Tell us in the comments. Netflix recovered, not because it ignored the lesson, but because it spent the next decade doing what Qwikster proved it had forgotten, treating the customer's experience as the product. The most dangerous moment for any brand is not when it is struggling. It is when it is winning, and starts to believe its customers will follow wherever it leads, and that its problems are too complicated to explain. Qwikster lasted 23 days. Netflix never explained the war that created it, and that silence cost more than the name ever did.